What's to me so fascinating is that, I've seen like in your videos, like even though there's so much lore that you could get into, it seems like at any point of the journey, like you're free to hop in because there's always something back to peel back. But even if you don't want to get into the most specifics of the specifics, like it's still a story anybody can enjoy and like resonate with. Hi, I'm Chris Molly, and this is Pod in the Verse, a fan-first podcast that explores everything having to do with the world of K-pop. Episode by episode, we'll dive deep into the latest content, get to know other fans, and stay up to date with what's going on Weverse. También tenemos una versión en español. We also have a Spanish version of the podcast. Se llama Todo en el Verso. Check out Todo en el Verso if you want the Spanish version. So grab your favorite headphones, get comfortable, and get ready to dive into the pod with us. Today, we have a very special guest, Lena. Let them know who you are.
Hello, my name is Lena, and I go by Lena Sunflower online. I make theory videos, mostly around HYBE. I'm Canadian, and I currently live in Japan, in Tokyo. So I'm so excited to be here right now and sort of talk about what we're going to talk about.
Awesome. And I brought Lena here with me today because if you guys can tell for like the setup that I have, today's episode is about TXT. And Lena has to be one of the biggest MOAs that I've come across. So we're going to have an awesome discussion today. But Lena, you've actually been with them since the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So like take us through what that's like from like being there since pre-debut. Like what was that like for you?
I had seen that they were going to come out. And so I was kind of like, oh, I want to be there when they drop the images and just sort of see what this group is about, because I just felt like they had to have been so good. And they released these images. I think it was one member at a time. And there was just two images of the members. And I was like, I love them. And in the bottom corner, there was this little like logo, which is like TU or like plus U, kind of like the TXT logo now. And I understood, I'm like, that's going to be TXT Universe. Like they're going to have a story too. Like I'm so invested. And just ever since then, it's been, so exciting.
Wow. I mean, to know that you like took so much just out of a pre-debut, like it was enough to get you seated. So what was that like then when you finally got the debut? Like, did it meet the expectations? Did it change? Like what was that like?
I mean, yeah, honestly, it did meet my expectations. I was so excited because the images that they were releasing were very like youthful and I want to say bubblegum pop feeling. And so Crown, which was their debut song, completely met my expectations on that front. And it was so fun to watch the audience sort of grow because we were like such a small community in pre-debut. And then it just kept expanding outwards after the debut, and everyone was paying so much attention to them. And it was so nice to see so many fans like accumulate over time, just supporting TXT, like even just in that small period.
What was it like then after the debut? You saw pre-debut images, you saw debut, and you saw they were already starting to build a storyline, right?
Yes. There was the logo in the corner, which kind of tipped me off. And so I was really looking out for it, actually. I was like making threads on Twitter and all this kind of stuff. Because in pre-debut, we didn't know anything, but I was like overanalyzing everything. And everyone was joining in. We were all like, oh my gosh, what could this mean? What kind of concept are they going to have? We kind of got the bubblegum pop feeling from the images, but we weren't sure. And then obviously debut happened. And it talks about growing pains and overcoming things early in life that I feel like is really relatable to people. And it was just so exciting to watch, especially as they introduced an antagonist, which was like the odd-eye cat with the blue and the green eyes. That was in the first album with the Nap of a Star. So there was so much to work with, and yeah, it just expanded out from there.
Well, that must have been so cool to experience because you're already like being thrust into this new universe, this new world with them. But I think what's really interesting is that I just finished watching their Disney Plus documentary, like Our Lost Summer. And it seems like you're up at like where you're talking about that point, they were getting ready for another comeback and then the pandemic happens and they have their lost summer. which as a Moa, like what was that like experiencing that with them?
So previously they had only had the one comeback, the Dream Chapter Magic. And so we were so anticipating it, and everything kind of went into lockdown and everything like that. So when Eternity came, it was all we had really to connect with them. And it came out in May 2020. So that was what got us through that first part of the pandemic. And I think a lot of MOA really bonded over all of that. And so when in November, after like the summer, when we all thought it was just going to be a summer, they released the song called "We Lost the Summer," which the documentary's name is kind of based off of. But "We Lost the Summer" was kind of a callback to "Our Summer," which was a song on their debut album. Yeah, we just really wanted to be with TXT, and TXT wanted to be with MOA.
No, I think it's so interesting because at least what I got from the documentary was they had just debuted. They had like their first debut year, and they were so prepared to go out and see more of MOA because they had just had the showcase in the US, and they were getting ready to do like a show, like a big show. And then everything shuts down. They can't see them for quite some time. And then we get the documentary that shows their first time back after so long. Were you able to see any of those concerts?
I didn't see those ones. I think I didn't end up getting tickets, but I did see the second time around the year later.
Okay.
But from my perspective, like even not being able to go, that was fine because it was just so nice knowing they would finally be able to tour, because you could tell that was what they wanted so much. And I feel like not touring is so hard on like the boys, and a lot of MOA, myself included, feel worse almost knowing that they were so saddened by not being able to perform in front of a live audience, like with people really there, right? So yeah, I feel like it's just so nice that the documentary exists and talks about like what they went through and behind the scenes, and we get to just be closer to them because we're like, we see everything that they did and how hard they practiced and how excited they were to meet with MOA again.
It's really sweet that they could unite with their MOA through like the shared pain of not being able to see each other. But then you can see like towards the end at the documentary when they finally do get to see like MOA again, and they're actually shocked. They're like, wow, like thank you guys so much for wanting to see us. Like, because they knew that MOA loved them, but they didn't know just how much they were like ready for them to come back.
Even today watching it, you can feel like the emotions because everyone went through the pandemic. And so like just understanding that separation and seeing the emotions that brings you through, I don't know, it's just so unifying as an experience.
I think it's like the best thing that you could hope for because nobody knew what was going to happen in that time. So it's probably the nicest thing that MOA had each other and that they still had them even though they couldn't see them physically.
Yeah.
But, speaking of that, like, you're our lore expert right now. So how did that change the narrative then? Because you were following so closely their story. And I feel like they kind of put aspects of that, like that separation in their story to share with their fans.
Yeah, I really feel that way because they started off with such a youthful sort of fantasy feeling, and that does continue through, but it started to mature, and there were so many themes of just not being able to connect with MOA that kind of continued through their narrative even from then. And you can sort of see that with like they're like searching for MOA in like the Eternally music video, and they're like, what is this? I have to remember this feeling, this person, this name. And I feel like that sort of, it just makes it all feel so much more connected. And I love that the story has taken on that direction because it's something that people can really relate to. They have such an evolving narrative, really, but...
Yeah, the narrative has evolved. And obviously when they first set out to debut the group, likely they maybe did not consider that aspect that MOA and they would be separate for the time that they were. But to see that it still fits in so seamlessly into their story, you've mentioned they started off with youth and then they kind of get into the darkness. Do you think that has anything to do with them trying to mirror what MOA might be feeling at the time? The feelings of growing up, like what maturity means for them?
Definitely. Yeah. Like every album has a new sort of evolved style as also the boys grow up. So I feel like they really crafted their narrative that way. Like the lore of their story matches really well with the growth of the group in general. Um, and there's a lot of recurring images as well. Like, so there's always been the promise, the wish that MOA and TXT can be together. There's a lot of visuals of fireworks, which sort of represents their wish for freedom. There's the island, Magic Island, and like that magic feeling. And of course, MOA, which are visually shown as stars, and both in the visuals and actually in the lyrics. And anytime you see a star, can pretty much assume that they're talking about MOA. So just like all these recurring things that go through their story keeps the consistency there. And also just makes it feel like, I know this. Like, I know them. I can connect with them.
That's amazing that they're always so intentional about including MOA in their lore too, because it's not just their story, it's like an our story kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember that there was this fox and this rose, and like, can you give me some insight into that?
There's a lot of different concept videos that kind of had that. The rose is always sort of like representative of MOA, like a little bit of The Little Prince. They've referenced plenty of other media, but The Little Prince and like the prince thinking of his rose on the planet, like it's always there in the back of his thoughts. But then in the Minisode 3 concept trailer, like the Tomorrow concept trailer, they had a very like visual narrative that they shared with that tied in super well with The Little Prince. And it does break a little bit from their more magical feel, which is, I think, really important for just like connecting with them. And it still feels magical, but it's like a nostalgical sense because, for example, Minisode 3's Tomorrow concept trailer like mirrors The Little Prince, who leaves their home and discovers like what the real world is like, what reality is like, and how it differs from that dream that they used to have. And it's almost like a feeling of nostalgia because you're like, oh, I had this dream and it's like hard to grasp. And MOA, who is the fox in that video, is named Tomorrow because moments of alwaysness will always be there for you tomorrow, right? We will reach tomorrow by being together. So MOA is always there waiting patiently for them. And it's like how in reality, even if we're separated, like through the pandemic, or even just waiting for the next album, it's like they said, it's a quote from The Little Prince, if you come at 4 p.m, I'll begin to be happy from 3. And I think it's a poetic way of just showing how much the fans mean to them. It's kind of like a love letter to MOA and a thank you for being there. And it's a very emotional video. Again, a bit like during the pandemic, MOA were so elusive to them and we've welcomed them warmly because we're always waiting. So it's really tied the fiction of what is reality to the members themselves and like how they feel, which again, even in like documentaries and interviews and all these kind of things, they always talk about, oh, like it's MOA who really allow us to continue to do this. And MOA are like, of course we want you to continue to do this. We will always be here waiting for you. I just really feel like these kinds of narratives show the like care and the love and the attention to detail that so many people have come together to create. And of course, the boys are there to carry everyone through. And it's just so like a lovely experience.
It sounds so beautiful, honestly. And I think like, I keep thinking about the Lost Summer because in that I could see like all of the members were talking about how hard this was for them to, you know, they were happy to do that online concert that they did, but there were supposed to be real people, like there were supposed to be people there, not just light sticks propped up. And they felt like, you know, can we really reach MOA? Can they really understand like that we wanted to do so much for them? And so that way, seeing that like this is still a message that continues to be in there, that like, you know, no matter what happens, unforeseen circumstances, like continue to wait for us because we continue to wait for you. Like we will always be here for you in the same way.
I think they really want to create a safe space, both for TXT and for MOA, which was especially visible even back in like the Dream Chapter Magic. It was very like, this is the safe place to go, to run away to. And then in the most recent one, it's literally called the Star Chapter Sanctuary. So it's a safe spot and a place for like MOA to connect with TXT and with their struggles in a way that I think helps comfort them and, you know, keep them company, and also help comfort MOA. And it doesn't matter like your age or where you are in your life. I feel like there's always something there for you, and it's a safe place to, you know, be with TXT.
Oh no, I absolutely love that. What's to me so fascinating is that, you know, I've seen like in your videos, like even though there's so much lore that you could get into, it seems like at any point of the journey, like you're free to hop in because there's always something back to peel back. Like I feel like their content is so friendly for anyone that wants to dive into the universe. They can get into it and then little by little peel back what they want to. But even if you don't want to get into the most specifics of the specifics, like it's still a story anybody can enjoy and like resonate with.
Exactly, yeah. Because their narrative, there's only 4 chapters and there's 5 members, but we have the Dream chapter, the Chaos chapter, the Name chapter, and then the Star chapter, each separated by like mini-sodes. So it's so easy to jump in at any point and see like, oh, there's this narrative there for me if that's something that I'm interested in. And it's not just the music videos. Like I said, it's the concept videos, it's the photos, the imagery, and everything. So there's so many ways to like lock into that storyline if that's what you want, and you don't even have to. Yeah. And they have their own webtoon as well, the Star Seekers, which is the rebranded name of what was originally TXT Universe. It's the same thing, it's just been renamed. So
how does that like fit into the narrative then? Like the webtoon, is that more of like an add-on? Like if you're a new MOA and you want to get into this, is that more of like something you should read in the beginning or something that at any point you could pick up?
I think you could pick that up at any point. There's certain music videos that are specifically tied into that story. So Nap of a Star from the Dream Chapter Star, Magic Island from the Dream Chapter Magic, and Eternally from the Dream Chapter Eternity. And then also the Frost music video. There's actually an animated story video called The Doom's Night as well that all ties into that sort of narrative. And if that's something that you want to enjoy and dive into, it's super accessible because now it's on Webtoon. It isn't necessary to like read it if you want to enjoy those music videos either. They're very cinematic music videos. They're very long. It was so exciting to sort of see as a MOA actually, because one of them is like a 20-minute long, basically cinematic masterpiece, in my opinion. And it's really involved and you're like, oh, this is amazing. But it doesn't have to be that you read the whole thing. You can enjoy it for like an art piece that it is on its own. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's like truly TXT and MOA have their own like cinematic universe within their music videos and trailers and the webtoons and animated music videos.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, that's awesome. Another thing that MOAs really resonate is like the idea of self-discovery and then what it's like to go through some of those changes together. I feel like maturity is going through that, maybe feeling like you need to isolate and then understanding that you can find comfort in others.
Especially in music videos like 0 by 1 equals Love Song and Loser Lover. That kind of thing feels like when you're struggling with yourself and you feel like you need that friend group to fall back upon. Like they can be that friend group for you, and then MOA can help, you know, be your friends. I've met so many MOA. I have friends with so many people now because of TXT. But like the music videos themselves, I feel like resonate with people because they're sort of showing topics that people struggle with. Mental health, you mentioned, and like coming of age struggles, things like that. It's difficult to navigate by yourself. And so sometimes it's nice to just remember, like, wow, I have a whole community here that understands what I'm going through and wants to help support me as I go through my journey of self-discovery. And you can kind of do that with them. Even deals with like nostalgia and like, oh, what do I do with these memories that I have of my childhood now? And I've brought over and to an adult. Like, I'm an adult. I have to work and do things I don't enjoy. But in the end, I still have that magic that I brought back with me, which was like they're chasing that feeling music video, for example.
Oh, yes.
Previously, they had fallen, but even though they fell from that magical space, like you see in Sugar Rush Ride and Magic Island and all that, they brought that magic down with them. And even though they're in the real world now, the magic is still present. And I feel like a lot of MOA can have that same takeaway where they're like, wow, like, yes, I do have to study. I do have to go to work and maybe do things like pay taxes that we don't really want to do, but we have to do. But at the end, we can still have that like magic and that freedom and that creativity and that childish sort of joy in life that you may have feel like you had to leave behind, but you don't, you know? And I love that they sort of bring that into all of their like content, especially recently.
It's so nice to hear, like, because for you as a fan who's been there since the beginning, like, I feel like you truly can resonate with them at different stages of your life because you've experienced different things in your day-to-day life. And, you know, TXT has always been TXT, but just the way you are always you. You can go through all these changes and it'll all just be part of your story. You don't have to leave any part of it behind. You can keep taking it with you. It's such a cool concept. And I think that MOA, as they grow up too, and as they grow with them and their concepts, they can feel safe in that idea that whatever it is that we go through, like it's always going to be me, they're always going to be them, and will always be us.
Exactly. No, it's true.
I think it's amazing that so much can be taken out of the music that they can take and that their fans can feel so close to them and they can feel close to them too. But we'll put a pin in that because right now we have to move on to our next segment called the Weverse Wrap Up. What's been going on with Weverse? Lots of things, as always. Speaking of TXT, actually, Bongyo's mixtape will have already been out. It came out March 27th. He'll be doing lots of different promotions. Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, like MOA's everywhere. Would love to know what you think about it. Next up, Coachella. First weekend is already passed, and we have ENHYPEN, Megan Thee Stallion, and Jenny. So there's still a second weekend to come. Super excited to see, you know, people's footage from that and how they're reacting. We'll have a very special announcement for BTS Jin's second solo album, Echo. It was just announced, actually.
Oh my God, please everyone check that out. It's going to be amazing.
And lastly, one more announcement for Boy Next Door's fourth EP, No Genre, that was also just announced.
There's so many good announcements this week. What is going on?
I know. And there's even more that I haven't even said. So like, guys, please keep checking those banners on Weverse, all right? And that's been the Weverse Wrap Up. And so now, last but not least, moving on to the Fan Zone. So today's Fan Zone is a little short, but still very interesting. We've talked to Lena. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of background into all of the lore. So to all the fans, now that you've heard the little bits that Lena has fed us, like what do you think is next in their story? Like what's next in TXT's story? Or if you've noticed anything that we left out, any more symbolism, please leave it in the comments. Check us out on Instagram, Weverse, YouTube, Spotify. I really want to know what you guys are thinking. And that's been the Fan Zone. Well, this has been such a great episode. I feel like I've learned so much from you, Lena. Like, truly, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, for sharing your love. I think MOAs all over the world can really resonate with you and will really understand like the love you have for this to keep going and to keep following them since pre-debut. So could you let the people know where to find you if they want to hear more lore?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for having me. Of course, you can find me at Lena Sunflower on basically every platform, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. And if you do want to have some more explanations, really diving deep into the lore, I have a lot of videos about that up on my channel. So yeah.
Yeah, so make sure to check her out, guys. Like, her content is amazing. We haven't even scratched the surface, truly. And remember, follow us on all our socials too for Pod in the Verse and Verse Community. So yeah, that's been Pod in the Verse. See you next week. Bye.
Stay sunny, everyone.